got into advertising in London, and I was working for big brands doing their digital marketing, like banner ads and search ads and affiliate ads and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, I can't be bothered just putting ads on the internet for the rest of my life. So I quit and set up a coffee subscription company. For some reason, I got a WhatsApp call with this guy, and it was like, we need a few pages. And I said, I can do it. And I probably had like 3 weeks of Webflow experience, and I started building, and then one thing led to another. You get referrals, and before you know it, I'm a Webflow developer, and you're building sites for these big brands and getting referred. And I'm probably moving away from Webflow because of the new, like you guys have been doing with MemberStack. It's like, I just want to build stuff.
How's it going?
Yeah, very good, thanks. Very good. You caught me in my new office. I've got my we've moved house about 2 months ago, so I'm in my new office. I've moved out of my kids' bedroom, which is always nice.
That is definitely nice. First thing I want to ask you, Matt, is how you got into Webflow, because one thing that I've noticed is every single person who's in the Webflow space, I mean, if you're, let's say, like a front-end developer, usually, like I went and got a CS degree and then, got an internship and whatever. It's kind of a standard path. Webflow industry is not like that. Everyone has kind of like a cool story. And I was looking at your LinkedIn and I see you've done a lot of different things. So give me the story. Give me the story.
Where do I start? So I started in London. I started building a website I can't remember what it was called at the time. It was one of it wasn't Dreamweaver, it was Fire something. I can't even remember what it was, like Adobe kind of character. Anyway, I was building it and I got as far as setting up the front end and all this kind of stuff. It was almost like a precursor to Webflow, except I couldn't publish it. I didn't know how to get a server. I didn't know how to take payments. I didn't know how to do a lot of the stuff that you can just do with the click of your fingers these days, And that kind of gave me a taste for stuff. So I got it to the point where on my computer it worked, but it didn't work anywhere else. And then I went to uni, and then I needed to get a job, and I got into advertising in London, and I was working for big brands doing their digital marketing, like banner ads and search ads and affiliate ads and all this kind of stuff. I got to a point when I think I moved to my second agency or third agency. It was like a merry-go-round in London, where you move to different agencies to get a bit of a pay rise and move up, a bit of promotion. And I was just like, I can't be bothered just putting ads on the internet for the rest of my life. So I quit and set up a coffee subscription company. So subscriptions were still in my head. It's like, I drink coffee every single day. Mate of mine, we were training for a triathlon at the time, and we were spending a shitload of money on coffee. And we keep running out of coffee. It was a Tuesday and we ran out of coffee, or it was a Friday and we'd run out of coffee. We're like, surely if we get coffee delivered to our door, we'll solve our problem. We'll always have really fresh coffee in our house, Anyway, there was nothing providing this kind of coffee. So we decided to build it ourselves and started to build an app and try and code it, and realized that we were way out of our depth. We had no developer skills. So we got a developer friend in, spent probably $5,000. And at the time we were like looking behind the couch to try and find this money. It was like, it's a lot of money and we don't know if it's going to work. And I did that for probably 4 years. We got a business up and running where we were selling coffee online, and I was doing a bit of the front end stuff. So I taught myself a bit of HTML, CSS. I went on a coding camp, which is, these 3-month coding camps where I learned some Ruby on Rails and tried to build a new version of this sort of thing. And I realized I was okay, but I was never going to be a developer. Never going to be a developer. It's just syntax and all the geeky server side stuff and security. And I was more about product strategy, a little bit of design. I'm not a designer, but a little bit of design, about customer service, all the product stuff. So got into product management. So I basically started applying for product management roles, not knowing that product management sometimes is more management than product. So I got into a few roles where I'm just not I don't want to be in a Jira board or a Trello board, moving stuff around, telling other people, working with developers and designers was good, but creating tickets and waiting for them to do the stuff, I just got frustrated. And one day, I can't remember what it was. I think there was a guy called Ben Tossell who ran, MakerPad. And I was doing a few of his sort of videos. Something came up, a connection came up there somehow. I think it was maybe on the forum with a guy. And he said, I'm looking for someone to help with a five-a-side soccer league app. And I said, oh yeah, I'll give it a go. And the job was basically jump into Figma. Well, I didn't have to jump into Figma, but that was the obvious one because I was playing around with Figma. Figmas were big in the prototyping world at the time. You know, it was like Mosaic and Balsamic and stuff were getting hit by this Figma. You know, you could link up prototypes. So I started building this five-a-side soccer league in Figma. And I think probably about 2 weeks in, I was looking at this Figma chart and there were lines going everywhere. What happens if you click this button? It goes to this view and this view and this view and this view. And I was like, I've got to actually build this. I can't use Figma to show the client what happens, because he was going, oh, can we just change this? I was like, oh, if I change that, I've got to unlink this and create this and unlink this. And before you know it, it was just, so I think, again, I probably went back to the MakerPad forums and someone was saying, look, Webflow is a good front end tool. And if you rewind all the way back to the Dreamweavers and those tools that I was using then, they were very similar. And I thought, this is it. I can just build a website to show off the prototype. So I basically got into Webflow just to be able to build a prototype because Figma wasn't scaling for me, you know. One thing led to another, and again on the MakerPad forum, or even no, I think it was Ben actually himself. He put something there, and you know, Deal. There's a company called Deal, Deel, yeah, and they had a gig. The guy, I think Ben knew the founder there. For some reason, I got a WhatsApp call with this guy who, you know, who is now probably multi-millionaire, very successful. And it was like, we need a few pages. And I said, yeah, I can do it. And I probably had like 3 weeks of Webflow experience. And I started building, and then one thing led to another. You get referrals. And before you know it, I'm a Webflow developer, and you're building sites for these big brands and getting referred. And I did some stuff with Ben. Ben was amazing because he just built stuff, and he still does, you know, with the AI stuff. He just builds stuff, and he didn't worry about whether a div had the right class on it, or, you know, he had, you know, if you look at any of his projects, it was like div 5, 6, 7, 8, and then div 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and I did a little project with him to try and tidy those things up, and just that's how I got into it. And before you know it, you know, I'm making money doing this. And what I get into 80/20 was the agency out in where are they based? Oakland, is it? I can't remember. I never met the guys, and I worked with them for a year. Worked on some really big complex projects and some smaller projects, and been doing that ever since, really. So yeah, it's been a bit of a weird one. Like my wife probably doesn't even know what I do really day to day. You know, she's got no interest in that stuff. And yeah, I've just started to meet loads of people online, and before you know it, you know, you're a Webflow person. And me and Alan did the podcast because we were chatting like this probably every couple of days and solving problems. And we thought, right, why don't we do this on a YouTube or a podcast, because other people might find it useful. And before you know it, you get invited to talk at events and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's very random. And now my next iteration is I'm probably moving away from Webflow because of the new, like you guys have been doing with MemberStack. It's like, I just want to build stuff. I had a moment years ago as a product manager, and I was sitting there, and it was about 7:00 at night. We'd come out of this brainstorming session, and I was sitting there with one of the engineers. Instead of writing a ticket, it was like, let's just do it now, you know? And he was fresh. He was like 2 weeks into the job. So he was, I wouldn't say naive, but he had lots of energy. And we just did the thing there and then at the desk. And I was watching him do it. And I was coming up with, what if we did this, and sending over little designs and tuning. And that's where I really get the kick. It's like doing stuff, seeing it work and rolling it out. And that's where I am now with Webflow. I still do lots of Webflow projects, but my main client essentially is, we're building an LMS, and I started on Webflow, started using Wiz, pulled in Xano, then pulled in Supabase. Then, you know, over the last year, AI has come along and gone, maybe I don't need to use Wizd or learn how to use Wizd, or we used Outsetter and MemberStat. We tried that to start with, and that you get to limitations of what you can do with the Webflow database and all that. But now we're fully Claude Code, Astro, with Svelte islands and stuff that I really don't know half the stuff that's under the hood. It's like a modern car. It's like, I know there's an engine, I know there's things, but if you ask to do anything with it, like I'd have to ask my AI assistant how to do it. So, and who knows where we're going now? Like, who knows where the world is going? Because like, I'm just driven by product delivery, like not like product market fit and stuff, but just like, there's a problem, here's a solution, what's the best way to deliver that? And I don't worry too much about the tool set,
I agree. I am on a similar page. Something I think you're going to find funny is actually how I discovered Webflow. So I was back in my day, I think I was like 16 at the time. I was getting into freelancing, really just making anything for anyone, similar to what you said, where it's like, oh, can you make me a Webflow site? Yeah, why not? I'll figure it out somehow. And so that was what I did. And I ended up getting a client who I actually ended up starting an agency with after. And this guy has another client who he needs a website for. And I was thinking, okay, I'm past the whole like Wix and Squarespace stuff. I want to make something professional, pixel for pixel, the way that I want it to be. And so I'm looking around and I actually discovered a certain little product called Framer. And Framer, I look at it and it's like, you just design I used Adobe XD at the time, but you just design like in Figma, Adobe XD, and you're going to end up with, production ready code, it said. So I'm like, perfect. All right. So I build out this whole website for this guy's client using Framer. And then I present it to the client. They love it. Everything's good. Project is a success. And I'm like, publish. You can't publish it. What? So I ended up actually contacting the Framer team and I'm like, guys, I must be missing something here. How do I put this on a custom domain and get it live on the web? And they're like, no, Framer isn't a tool for building like production websites. Framer is a prototyping tool. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah, no, you can't actually publish something on the web with Framer. I'm like, guys, no, this client wants their site live tomorrow. Please, please, please. And so I ended up having to have someone build out like a custom WordPress theme, and it kind of got, messy towards the end, which is funny because obviously a couple of years later, as we know at this point in time, that's exactly what Framer is. So I tried to use Framer for something that it wasn't way back when. And then a few years later, I guess they caught on. They're like, wait, why aren't we building the thing? I don't know if they remembered me. They probably didn't. But, that this dude said it. And so after that project, my who ended up actually turning into my co-founder at the agency, this client at the time, he's like, I heard about this thing called Webflow. And he shows it to me. I try it and I'm like, there we go. That's exactly what I'm going for.